today's recipe, we're gonna make mushroom wild rice soup. So this is a great meal for Meatless Monday, but I'm just gonna put all this together and show you how it works. And if you want it to be chicken wild rice, you can add chicken. If you want something, beef in there, I'm sure that you could do that as well. But I'm gonna leave the protein out today because the mushrooms are enough protein for this dish. So we're gonna start with a Dutch oven, and I'm gonna throw 2 tablespoons of butter in there and get that melting. And then once that melts, I have I'm gonna use a fancy word, mirepoix, which I don't even know if I said it right, but it's celery, carrots, and onion. And it's kind of the base for any soup to make sure that, you have that heartiness, and let's be honest, we're sneaking in some extra vegetables, right? So while this is melting, just to remind you again, this is Christy from Christy Cooks for Life. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I am gonna go ahead and put in, I have roughly about a cup of carrots, a cup of celery, and a cup of onion. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in there, get that sauteing. Okay, so we're gonna stir that around. The butter's still melting. We wanna just stir that until the onions and celery get a little translucent. So once that gets going, we'll throw the mushrooms in. The mushrooms are gonna release a little bit of fluid or water. So we want to cook those down a little bit before we add everything else. It's not that big a deal in a soup because it's soup. It's going to be, liquidy. But if you're using mushrooms for any other recipe, it's sometimes good to cook them first to get all of that extra water out of them. Okay, so I had a container of sliced mushrooms, and it was about halfway full, and I just chopped those up. I didn't want to really bite into like a whole mushroom. I like to have it a little more the same size as the rest of the veggies that I put in here. So we're gonna let these cook down for a little bit. So now that these are starting to get some heat on them and they're starting to cook down a little bit, I'm gonna add 2 cloves of garlic that I chopped up. Just kind of mince that up. We want to have as much flavor as possible in here because we're going to be using low sodium beef stock, and we're not adding in extra salt. So we're going to have as much flavor as we can. I'm going to put a little bit of ground black pepper in there. Probably like 2 to 3 tablespoons. Get some flavor going. There we go. My grinder was not cooperating. All right, so I'm gonna throw in this fresh parsley. This is from my herb garden that I chopped up the other day. So we're gonna put some of that in there. I actually feel like we need a little bit more of that. So a little bit more of that in there. There, I think more like a tablespoon. I was gonna put like a teaspoon in, but I feel like it needs a little bit more. So this is starting to cook down, as you can probably tell. It's getting translucent and the veggies are starting to sweat out. So we're gonna go ahead and add in the rice. So I have a cup of basically wild rice. I use this Lundberg wild blend rice. It has 0 sodium in it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that. And we're gonna put that in there. Stir that around a little bit. Kind of nice to get a little bit of a toast on the rice. Gives it a little nutty flavor. All right, so I have about 5 cups of beef stock that I'm gonna use. I like beef stock with mushrooms. Like I said, you could totally make this a chicken wild rice and put in chicken stock and shredded up chicken, even rotisserie chicken if you're not so worried about the sodium. So I'm gonna try to super carefully pour in this 5 cups of beef stock. All right. Now that rice is gonna double in size, so you wanna make sure that you have enough liquid in there so that it can absorb that and, poof up, which is a very technical term, but fluff up and not be so hard. You know, you want it to be pretty tender. So it's gonna take a little while to cook to get that rice to absorb that moisture and become tender. So we're gonna bring this to a boil, and then to thicken this up, you have a couple choices. So I decided today I'm gonna try a can of coconut milk. Now, if you're making this vegan, you would probably want to use vegetable stock. I'm not putting any extra meat in there, but I'm not necessarily going vegan. So probably not even vegetarian because I use beef stock. But if you use vegetable stock, then and then the coconut milk, this is a completely vegan soup. You know, I'm more worried about the sodium than I am that, so I'm putting the flavors that I like in here. But if you want to thicken this up and you don't want to use the coconut milk, all you gotta do is about a half a cup of flour, sprinkle that on the veggies before you put the broth in, and then probably about a cup of milk. And you probably want to back off on the broth a little bit and only put 4 cups in, and that will be like your roux, and that will help thicken up your soup as well. So as soon as this comes to a boil, or at least a simmer, all right, I can see the bubbles starting to form around the outside of the pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour in this can of coconut milk. Now, obviously being that it's coconut milk, it's gonna add a little sweetness, but you know, it should be good. I gotta be honest with you, I haven't tried it, so I'll report back when we try this. But I think it's gonna add a nice, you know, different taste, mix it up a little bit. And as it cooks, it's gonna, you know, get thicker, creamier, which is what you really want in like a wild mushroom soup. When you think about it, you think about a creamy, thick soup. So, all right. So we got that all incorporated. And basically now what we just have to do is wait. So I'm probably gonna let this simmer for a couple hours, and then we'll check out the finished product. So stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back. So oh, I think I just spit rice out of my mouth. The mushroom wild rice soup is done. I'm gonna show you guys how thick and luxurious that is. Remember, we put in 5 cups of stock, but as you can see, it's reduced down. I let it simmer for about 3 hours. You don't have to let it cook that long, but I wanted it to be nice and rich and thick. So I plated it up here with some crusty bread. I made this in an earlier recipe, and we can just sop it up in there. And then, you know, this is the finished product. So I'm gonna take a quick taste. As you can see, you know, we put in that coconut milk, so that actually helped it thicken up as well. Super hearty, super rich. I will say that the one thing that I did do as it was cooking, I decided it needed a little more seasoning. So I put in 2 tablespoons of the Kirkland no salt seasoning that I've talked about before. So I didn't put that in at the beginning, but I did add it at the end. So if you would like more recipes like these, or you want to learn how to make the crusty bread, make sure that you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's where you'll find the videos. So again, this is Christy from Christy Cooks for Life. Remember to make every meal a heart-healthy meal, and have a great day.